Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to address two of the biggest mistakes which students do in high school. Well, by high school, I do not actually mean the levels of 11th standard and 12th standard. Rather, I mean the levels from around class 6, standard 6 or standard 7 to standard 10. So, what are these two biggest mistakes? First of all, the absolute biggest mistake, my personal feeling, is how the students in their high school they study and learn mathematics and how they engage in problem solving. The second one is how they go about acquiring language skills, irrespective of the language in question. So, first of all, mathematics and problem solving. So, recently I shared a poll on YouTube through the YouTube community thing, and people had many students had correctly pointed out that if they had a chance to go back to school, they would emphasize mostly this aspect, mathematics and problem solving, and I completely agree with that. The main reason behind this is as follows. You see, many students, in fact most students in India, and they have this dream of going to a good engineering college, possibly the IITs, if not then the NITs. So the target is always JEE. In some cases it is not JEE, it is NEET, but more or less the mentality is the same. So when they go about doing this, they mostly take the help of coaching institutes, and I was kind of shocked to learn that nowadays people are going to coaching institutes as early as standard 6 or standard 7. Okay, I had heard that people go as early as standard 9th, which was a little bit odd during our times because coaching really started in standard 11th, but I could understand standard 9th, but standard 6? Come on, are you kidding me? Anyway, so my hope is that if you can address the kind of things that I'm going to discuss right now, you would not even need the help of coaching institutes if done right. So what is this problem? What is the biggest mistake that people do in learning maths and how they engage in problem solving? So you see, how do you go about learning maths in school? Is it not something as follows? You get your textbook, you go to school, the teacher starts a particular chapter, explains a few things from the background theory, and then he or she, your teacher, they teach a few sample problems, and then maybe they will give you a few homework problems to do. And then what you usually do, this is my experience from my days, and I think this is more or less true for many students also nowadays, that even if they don't go to coaching, they will definitely take some kind of tuition in maths. This is the most common thing. Like, tuition in maths is a necessity, an absolute necessity in school. So people who do not take tuition, they feel that they are left out. So and the system goes like this, that the kind of homework problems that the teacher gives in school, that is being discussed in the tuition, and then the tuition teacher maybe gives another set of homeworks which the students try, and then they go back and then they discuss these problems. So basically what it turns out is that learning maths, as it turns out, happens to be a process through which the students learn various kinds of solution methodologies from different persons. Whether it is the school teacher, whether it is the tuition teacher, this is what goes on in the name of learning maths. But where is the learning of problem solving? Who is teaching problem solving to the students? I'm afraid this is not happening at all. Okay, there may be some very good schools or very good teachers, and these are exceptions, who emphasize on the importance of problem solving. But mostly what happens in the name of problem solving, quote unquote, is that the students are just being taught different kinds of solution methodologies. That's that. So, and why is that bad? Well, if you're only learning different kinds of solution strategies and methodologies, like, it's like you are just mugging up the methods to address different kinds of problems. So there will be some set categories of problems for which you will have a catalog of methods, and then your training is geared towards how you can map the different kinds of methodologies, the different kinds of methods to the various categories of problems. It is basically ultimately at a slightly higher level, just match the following. So this is not really problem solving at all. What is problem solving? Well, you see a problem, you have no idea about what method you have to come up with, and then you use your own independent thinking without discussion with anyone, without looking up any problem, without searching for it in Google, and then through your independent effort you try to tackle, even if partially, the problem. That is real problem solving. Like, you may acquire a large amount of problem solving even without doing completely a single problem, but through an honest effort towards tackling different kinds of problems. Unless you do this, you are not learning problem solving. And and if you do not learn problem solving in the context of mathematics, you are never going to learn problem solving. I'm sorry, if I'm sounding a little bit rude, but this is what it is. I know this for a fact because this is exactly the mistake that I did right from my class 1 to my class 9. It was only in class 9 when my school teacher, bless him, God give him all the blessings that is possible. He introduced me to these Olympiad type of problems, and I basically understood that I had not learned maths at all. I simply had not learned maths in all those 8-9 years. It was only when I started doing those kinds of things that I realized that I had to learn how to learn maths afresh. So people who are committing the same kind of mistakes that I did, like learning different kinds of methods and just trying to map those methods to the various categories of problems, please change your habits. This is not the way that you go about learning maths. So yes, sure, you have to learn different methods, you have to learn different things, but after a certain stage, you have to understand that you have to come up with your own strategies. You have to come up like addressing problems completely on your own. So when you do this, okay, and I'm going to say something probably a little bit unpleasant now, so please listen carefully. If you do this, and only if you do this, you will be able to realize the strengths that you have. Many people who join coaching from a very early stage, they go through this regimented approach that the coaching teachers give. They go about their entire high school without realizing properly what their real strengths is, because they are just being given dose after dose of different categories of problems and different methodologies. So where is the self-realization? You don't even know if you are really good enough for the kinds of things that you are aiming for. So by chance, like the coaching institutes nowadays have such a sophisticated methodology of training the students, that by giving large doses of this and through some kind of a regimented approach, they train the students in such a fashion that they push them through the barrier of the entrance examinations, whether it is JEE or it is NEET, and then the students end up in the colleges. But when in the colleges there is no such coaching or no such tuition, they are completely flabbergasted at the level. They realize that they have not acquired any real problem solving, and then they fall flat on their face. So maybe this is not the right time to discuss all of these things, but this is ultimately the consequence of not learning problem solving in the proper fashion. What also happens is that if you are not at all, for problem solving you do need a little bit of a knack for genuine problem solving, and for certainly harder problems you need to have some amount of innate ability to do it. So if you do not have that innate ability, there must be a little bit of that spark of imagination in you, some kind of independent thinking capacity. Those kinds of things, if they are not there in you, and if you are just being pushed forward by the momentum created by the artificial cosmetic momentum created by your tuition teachers and coaching teachers, you may think that just because your parents are spending thousands and thousands, probably lakhs of rupees on your tuition and coaching, you probably will end up in some good college, but that is ultimately not going to happen. Okay, because in these examinations you will always have to face some kind of new problems for which none of those categorized kind of methodology will work. This can happen, or even if you somehow manage to do it, you're never going to get a good rank. So the best way to discover yourself, your innate abilities, whether you have them or not, to develop those abilities, if you even if you have them, is high school. Okay, so don't go for tuition, fine, go for coaching if you have to. If your parents are forcing it, maybe that's another topic of discussion. uh, but I personally think that standard 6 or standard 7 to standard 10 is a very precious time in which you need to discover this kind of a problem solving ability on your own. uh, Instead of wasting these years, and I am using a strong word here, instead of wasting these years in going to coaching and just being channelized, your energy being channelized through this regimented fashion. Okay, the next thing, the next biggest mistake, which many people do not realize, is the importance of acquiring language skills in school. This is certainly not going to happen in any coaching institute. Perhaps it can happen in some tuition, but the best place to really acquire this thing is at school. Okay, so if you are neglecting your school education, it is going to come at the big price of not learning language skills properly. There could be debates about the quality of the school education that is available to you, but that is a slightly separate aspect. But I still believe that no matter what kind of school you are going to, there are ample opportunities for you to extract some amount of benefit on this regard. Again, let me discuss how you go about acquiring language skills. So you go to school, the teacher starts a chapter, and by the way, when I say language skills, of course, in my head, I'm thinking English because I went to an English medium school. That was what I was trained for. But whatever I say, it applies equally well to any other language also. So acquiring language skills, and by that I mean reading, writing, comprehension, effective communication, all these things, if it happens very nicely, if it develops to a certain level of maturity in one particular language, I think it is not a big leap to go from one language to another. Of course, there are challenges, but this is kind of a mental muscle that you develop. If, like my PhD advisor used to say this, there are certain students who don't even know how to communicate effectively in their own mother tongue. That is really unfortunate. Okay, so forget about English. At least in whatever language is whatever the language of medium of is the medium of instruction in your school, develop this language skills in that language itself. So how do you go about doing this? The typical way. So your teacher starts a chapter, explains the things, and there will be a set of typical questions which are typically asked in the board examinations, and there are some typically officially acceptable answers which you are supposed to prepare. You prepare them and then you mug them up and then vomit them in the examination. This is the typical way in which so-called language skills are acquired in our schools. In some schools it is a little bit better, but ultimately it is again a very regimented kind of thing. So I think that is rather unfortunate. Now, I'm trying to emphasize this not because I want to emphasize some kind of putative, holistic, liberal kind of education. Those are important things, but I mean this in terms of the actual preparation which will be helpful to you later on if you actually go on to prepare for JEE and NEET. Okay, so I am actually speaking in a very business-like fashion here. I mean, acquiring knowledge and developing personality and all those things is fine, but here I am actually talking on that line. So, why is acquiring these long language skills important? It is important because When you go to college, well, even before college, when you go to plus two, and especially if you are in the science stream, then you will see that you will have to go a severe leap, I mean, leveling up in terms of the kind, the challenges that you will have to face in learning chemistry and physics. Okay, also in maths, but certainly in chemistry and physics, you will have to, you'll see just when you enter class 11, uh, there is a tremendous leap up in the level. This jump, this abrupt jump, is something which cannot be handled by many students. I was like in the top 20 of my state board in class 10. Despite that, okay, so I faced severe challenges in my class 11. Okay, and this is despite the fact that I had actually, I mean, gone through a very classical type of school education, which is what I am espousing here. So if you are neglecting a big aspect of your school education, which is language, it is going to bite back at you in class 11. And why is that? Because you'll have to study many things on your own, and when you study many things on your own from books, unless you have the proper ability to comprehend the things and extract the meaning out of it, you are not going to be able to understand anything deeply enough. No matter how much your teacher may explain to you, unless you sit with your book, devote yourself to each and every line, try to read between the lines and try to comprehend and extract the meaning, you are not going to be able to understand it. This is the stark truth I'm telling you. Okay, so maybe in school you can get by without really understanding, or without understanding yourself by reading the books, by the momentum that is created, again I'm using those words, by your tuition teacher and coaching. But ultimately you are going to face this tremendous wall of difficulty when you go into class 11, unless you have acquired the language skills properly. And again, nowadays coaching institutes have developed this tremendously sophisticated regimen that I mean, they give students learning materials in micro capsules, and students can take bite-sized chunks out of it and learn the various concepts in a very fragmented fashion. And they keep on doing this all through their plus two. Somehow they manage to get through the entrance examinations, but ultimately when it comes to the undergraduate education, they absolutely fall flat. I have seen this happen time and again. Many students simply do not have the skill to learn themselves, to learn things on their own from a book. Forget books. Even if I give them lecture notes, fully typed out lecture notes, they find it extremely difficult to read through a passage, to read through a piece of text and extract meaning out of it. This is the sad truth. Okay, so school is where you develop this kind of a proper language skill. How do you go about doing it? Well, it is not going to merely happen from your school textbooks. Yes. So what I mean by that is, yes, you'll have to learn from whatever textbook of the language that is prescribed to you, but you will also have to develop a reading habit, whether it is from newspapers or some kind of simple magazines. Maybe even it's a sports magazine, and mind you, sports magazines have beautiful language. Many of the things which I have learned in school and which I actually used in my own essays and story writings were actually acquired from sports articles. This is a big secret. Another thing is that you should develop the habit of reading fiction, because there are many truths which are embedded in fiction, and it develops your empathy and your ability to hold kind of opposing thoughts in your brain. These are the kinds of skills and maturity which needs to develop while you are at school. Many students they say, I've seen these kinds of comments that, oh, in such and such advanced country such and such a thing happens, and in India there is no such opportunity, this and that. Yes, we lack opportunities, but at the same time you have to understand that in those kinds of so-called advanced countries, the kind of education which is expected from the students, even at the school level, involves a lot of reading on their own. So will you be willing to do that? So when you develop this ability to read on your own, to extract meaning, even from fiction, then from stories, from novels, then you develop an ability to actually encounter a completely alien piece of text and uh, develop a general ability to extract meaning out of it, which is going to stand you in tremendously good stead once you enter college. So this is the school level, from standard 7 to standard 10 is high time where you absolutely need to develop this ability. Furthermore, not just in reading but also in writing, because this reading, writing, presenting your thoughts in a coherent fashion, this is something which can only be achieved in practice. It takes years and years of effort. So the earlier you start this, it is better, and earlier means definitely at the very beginning of high school itself. So when you do this reading, this writing, and these habits and these skills, when you develop, it kind of creates a different kind of evolution of your mindset, your brain. And later on, when you encounter different things, different new things, it will actually help you to develop coherent thoughts on your own. It will, if you write something down, if you read something and then write something down, it helps you not just to present your thoughts but also to interact with your own thoughts. So writing is as much important as it is for communicating your thoughts as it is for clarifying your own thoughts. So when you can write something in a clear fashion, you are actually clarifying things not just for others but first and foremost for yourself. And that is the trick and the big secret behind making excellent notes. So when you read something, you comprehend it, you present it in a notebook by yourself in your own language, you are interacting with your own thoughts, you are and if you do this very honestly, then the kind of understanding, the in-depth understanding that you are going to have, that is going to be truly tremendous. That depth of understanding is something absolutely priceless. Now, you may be thinking that if you are going to do all of this on your own, then what good are your school teachers for? Well, the school teachers can help you step by step in leveling up this kind of acquiring the skills. So when you read a text, when you go to a school teacher's lecture, they can unlock some new meanings for you, help you to read between the lines. So these are small things which if you are observant enough, you will see it happening on a day-to-day basis in your school education. And unless you actually go to school, you're never going to realize this. So instead of school, if you end up just going to a coaching, some kind of a dummy school, this is never going to happen. Okay, so on this note, I'll end this discussion. I'm sure there are lots and lots of other things which needs to be discussed on these aspects, but for the sake of this video, I'll end here, and maybe in a future video I can point out a few things which would be important for the sake of the parents also. So on this note, thank you very much and all the very best.